Hey guys, I'm going to take you through today how to set up a compressor. It's pretty easy when you know how and how they work, and there's a few simple tricks you can learn at the start to make your life a lot easier and just to help you to know actually what you're doing. So here it is. We're going to work with some overheads today. Drum overheads are probably one of the things that you can really hear quite easily what your compressor's doing. So here's the track. I just picked something pretty straightforward so we can all hear what's going on. So what we're going to do is we'll play the track. First thing we're going to do is we're going to drop the threshold, and we're also going to increase the ratio. So it's really going to compress very, very heavily. And then we're going to I'll just bang up the makeup again so we can hear what's going on. So you can hear now the compressor is just going overtime. Everything is super compressed, but that's exactly what we want. So we can hear now when we're going to start fiddling around with the attack and release times, you're going to hear actually what the compressor is doing. And these parts are really your creative tools. So those things are really going to, there's not a right or a wrong with the attack and release times. It's basically just a creative thing about how you're going to shape your sound. If you're going to really increase your attack time, then you're going to compress all your kick and your snare hits. All the transients are going to be really compressed. So I'll just let that play now. So you can hear the snare drum and the kick drum are really being affected. But if you want your snare drum and your kick drum to really pop through, then you just back that attack time right up, and you can hear that that snare drum and the kick drum are really coming through much more, but the compression is still really working afterwards. So if you want that sound, you can go with that. Now with the release times, this is really going to affect what's happening in between the kick and the snare hits. So have a listen to the hi-hats and all the information that's happening in between each kick and snare hit. And the release time is really going to affect that. So if it's very fast, that's going to bring up still all that room sound that's in between the kick and the snare hits. And as we drop it, that's really going to affect everything in between the kick and the snare hits. So you can hear all the hi-hats die. And that's a really good setting if you really want a punchy drum sound. That just lets all that snare and kick through, but kills everything in between. So you can also, I've got some room. So here's a little room, some room mics. With the room mics, generally what you want to do is to kill all the kick and the snare hits and just really amplify the sound of the room. So I'm going to quicken up all these settings, and you can hear that's killing all the kick and the snare, but it's letting everything that lives in between the kick and the snare really breathe and come out. So the opposite would be true if I just did this. So once again, you're just hearing the kick and the snare now and nothing in between. So there you, with that trick at the start, it really lets you understand what you're doing with the attack and release times, and it helps you get really creative with those. And then once you've found something you like, so go back to say you want a really punchy sound, we're going to have a relatively slow attack and a medium release. And you can just back all these settings off now. The ratio will put back down to something reasonable, and the threshold as well. Back that down. And that really gives the drum some punch. So I hope that helps you guys understand what's going on with your compressor. And you don't have to use that trick on just drums. You can use it on everything. It just lets you hear much more easily what your compressor's doing, and then you can start getting creative with the attack and release times. Hope that helps you guys. Have a good one.